So just a little bit about me. I'm a marketing and business consultant. I work with Sukup Strategic Solutions. My newest emphasis is helping nonprofits and companies with AI adoption. I've been in the marketing, software, um, business development solutions area for over 15 years. I started my career at the YMCA of Orange County and had the opportunity to lead their rebranding effort, which really allowed me to build up a corporate marketing department from the ground up and really be attuned to the integration of the tech stack, which is where I first started getting introduced to software and the power of digital tools to transform organizations. So in the last few years, I have been exploring with generative AI, ChatGPT, and other tools that we'll talk about today. And, I've always been impressed with the power of software and digital technology to take things to the next level. But as I started to use ChatGPT for my own work and then started to apply it for my clients to solve problems and make things more efficient and make the quality of what we were doing better, it just became clear to me that this is next level, what's happening with what we have access to. And so it's really exciting to be on the forefront of this. And honestly, believe it or not, you're on the forefront of this if you're already thinking about it, because relatively speaking, what we're going to be talking about today is basically just been in our lives for about 3 years. So kudos to you for understanding that this is not going away, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to really work with AI to do things better and improve quality in our operations. So today we'll mainly focus on practical applications. I will begin by giving a little bit of a general overview of generative AI and the different types of tools, and then we'll jump into ChatGPT to do some actual prompts and examples for how you can use this in your marketing and fundraising. And we'll end with sort of a discussion of how you can adopt this and get it started in your organization, whether you're large or small, and sort of the first steps you need to take and the things that you need to be thinking about long term. So as I mentioned, generative AI is not new, right? It's been creeping into our lives for a long time now. It's in our phones. They're constantly updating how we can talk to the phone or talk to this app, and all of those things are essentially powered by AI in the background. Generative AI, which are the tools that actually create things, not just analyze like some of the older AI. These generative AI tools allow us to actually create. So basically, AI is being adopted or generative AI at a very, very fast rate, personally and especially by businesses and even nonprofits. So if you compare it to when the internet was introduced and how that was adopted, generative AI is actually being adopted twice as fast as the internet and 3 times faster than PCs. And so if you think about how those technologies changed our lives and continue to change our life, I think it's reasonable to assume that this new set of technologies is going to do the same thing and possibly, at an even more rapid rate than it has in the past. So businesses and nonprofits are really jumping on board, and more people are reporting that if they're not using it, they are definitely planning to use it. So you are in the right place at the right time. So this is just a quick snapshot of some demographic breakdowns. Basically, people are jumping on board, at all levels. There is, some age group differences, of course, and people in managerial or executive positions tend to use it a little bit more. But largely, everybody is intrigued, and a lot of people are starting to apply it in their lives. So what do I mean by generative AI applications? Like I said, AI is huge. Generative AI is relatively new. And I think the last thing I read was like there are 20,000 tools, and probably by today there's 25,000. It just keeps expanding. So this is a very brief snapshot of the types of generative AI applications out there. So the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, those are the LLMs, the language models. That's what we're going to be looking at today. There's also, image generation, audio generation, video generation. You can write songs, you can create videos from text. You can generate AI-driven images, and more these tools are becoming what they call multimodal. So originally, ChatGPT was really information text related, and now it's evolved into it can read images, it can create images, it can we can speak to it, and pretty soon it'll probably be able to speak back to us. I think actually there is voice mode. Again, these things are constantly evolving. So today, when we're in there, I might discover something new from yesterday. That's just how it works. Kind of like our social media channels, they're constantly evolving, and that's what they're meant to do. But sometimes it can be a little challenging to understand when things change that fast. But largely, if you're using the tool on a regular basis, you'll adapt to those changes, and you'll probably see the value in them. So pretty soon these different types, may not even be important anymore because most of the tools are going to be able to do all of these different aspects of generative AI. And I would say this has really democratized access to creative, to creative exploration and outputs. So, people that aren't artists but have artistic ideas, now really have a tool where they can express themselves, or maybe people have good ideas, but they're not the best writer. And so it can really help you and support you in where you need support. And of course, you're the driver, and it's your ideas running the show. So the AI needs us, but it can certainly be um, very helpful in basically everything that we're doing. Before we jump into the applications with ChatGPT, I did want to mention that there are so many what I would call smart software tools out there that I would, if you're not using some of these, and actually I would bet many of you are. So I would love to know in the chat if which of these tools, if any, that you are using, and if you find them helpful. And again, I think other people would probably appreciate any comments or recommendations in that regard. Again, this is a teeny snapshot of these types of tools that are available. But of course, Canva is very common. It makes graphic design extremely accessible and easy to do. Even I can do it, and that's not my forte. Hootsuite is an amazing tool, social media scheduling. It also has your whole analytics in one dashboard. It gives you content suggestions for different channels as you're creating. It actually integrates with Canva, so you can pull your media directly. It's pretty savvy, and they have a great nonprofit discount. Meeting recorders, many of you are probably using those. I think Zoom now is doing a pretty good job of doing the AI summaries as well. But some of these meeting tools are very powerful in terms of not just creating summaries, but creating action items and assigning tasks, and making follow-up so much easier. Another big one is donor prospecting tools. So these, the ones I've mentioned so far are very affordable. I would say either there's free versions or $20 a month. iWave is not cheap, but it is an amazingly powerful donor prospecting tool, where you can get all kinds of demographic information on your potential supporters. Um, and then it calculates things like wealth scores and helps you decide who would be the best fit for you to seek donations from. I think most nonprofits are using a CRM, or I hope so, or in your world, it's probably called a donor database. And again, to me, these are foundational, and you should look to get one if you don't have one. But a lot of the automations that people talk about, and let's say automated campaigns to different segments, when you hear things like that, a lot of that's going to happen in your CRM. Not that you can't achieve it in other ways, but it's much easier to do in a CRM. And tools like Zapier and Make, I've actually been working with Zapier for many years. That's how you can make a lot of automations happen, and it enables you to do software integrations that you can't natively integrate. So I would, if any of these things sound interesting to you, would suggest check them out. A lot of them have a free trial. I do suggest that if there is a paid version and it's cheap, you go ahead and get it. because as you might know, anything that you use for free, they're probably taking your data and doing a lot with it. So if you care about privacy and stuff, using the paid version of things if they're cheap enough is always a best practice, especially if you're using it in business and in your nonprofit. So where do you leverage AI in your nonprofit and your organization? Basically everywhere, right? So these are the different, I guess you could call it departments where you could think about applying generative AI, marketing, fundraising, grants, strategic planning, staff training, operations, data analysis. So I think that covers the gamut. But if you can think of something else, um, I would guess that there is a way that AI can help you do it. So just in terms of marketing, if we look at um, where can we use this in marketing? I would say this is being picked up in terms of the corporate world by marketers probably just about more than anybody. So this statistic is 83% of marketers now use generative AI, saving up to 5 hours a week. I would say depending on what you're doing, you could even be saving more than that. We will actually jump into ChatGPT just pretty soon here and do some of these exercises, but just a quick run through. As you can see here, there's so much potential in terms of helping you write your blogs, your press releases, your long articles, even your annual reports. You could then generate social media posts for different platforms. I love repurposing information. It's very powerful when you give it a lot of background and good information on your organization. You can basically create anything from sort of your source content. So we'll look at that again today. Another really big thing that has become pretty common are chatbots. So most chatbots are pretty simple, but even those can be really powerful because they handle your donor inquiries in real time. And they can basically, it's kind of like when somebody goes to your website and doesn't want to look around for something, right? The chatbot can direct them to where they want to go. So they can be extremely useful. And it can even go as far as drafting an entire marketing plan and content calendar, which we will attempt to do today. So marketing and fundraising and nonprofits are kind of hand in hand. So we'll look at some of these applications together, both marketing and fundraising. One thing that I just barely sort of started to test that if it was good at this was to brainstorm and plan events and campaigns. So I haven't like full blown done that, but from my testing, it seems to be very powerful in that regard. A lot of times I'm using these tools, I'm giving it a lot of, I kind of know what I want and I'm going in there and telling it what I want. But the other end of it is, maybe you're just confused or you really need help and guidance and you want to brainstorm. And it's extremely powerful at that. Um, so if that's something that would be useful to you, that would be a great way to get in there and first start to try it out. You can analyze and predict donor giving patterns. Again, a lot of times that's better done in like in your donor software and or those prospect tools, but it also can be done in ChatGPT. You just have to be careful to take out personal information on your donors and stuff before you upload it. You can create personalized donor appeals and emails. And again, a lot of times you're going to execute that in your CRM, but in terms of crafting the language, ChatGPT is really good at, taking the same letter and making it more relevant to, let's say, 4 different levels of donor groups, if that's your situation. Um, you can strategize and plan your communications to your major donors, that may need to be more nuanced. And finally, you can personalize donation pages and thank you emails. That a lot of times, again, is probably done out of your CRM, but is becoming more and more common in the newer donor CRMs that you see out there. They have a lot of smart AI tools under the hood going on there. So just right now, we've just kind of gone through 2 of those departmental areas that I originally showed you. And as you can see there, these are just examples of what we can do. So I'd love to hear from you in the chat, what you're thinking so far, and if maybe you've done any of this in an AI tool. And if not, maybe which of these are most interesting to you. So let's jump into ChatGPT here. I'll make sure. I hope you can still see my screen. Someone can give me a thumbs up that you're seeing my chat GPT. Okay, great. Okay, so I actually had the opportunity to start a new chat GPT for this training, and I did that for two reasons. One of the clients that I work with and have for, I think, 4 years now, Yoga Gives Back. They're a wonderful nonprofit, and a few of them may be here today. I've been working with them for a long time. I've been using AI myself to help them generate content. I did a few trainings with the team to kind of show them the possibilities. But I really wanted to build something that they could use and I'd be able to hand off to them that they would find useful. So I started a new GPT for them, and I've sort of I've uploaded a lot of their content again, just so that sometimes when you're doing certain things in ChatGPT, certain things can take a long time. So in terms of time for this presentation, I wanted to make sure like we didn't get stuck when it was uploading things and stuff like that. So I can show you what I've already done in here so that you can see the background, and then we'll actually do some live prompts from those examples that we just looked at. And, I think real quick, I am going to give you a tour of ChatGPT, and I hope this isn't this is okay. I think there are some people that haven't used this much, and even for those that do use it, again, it changes so often that running through this is not a bad idea. So, here's your menu bar over here. Here are my chats that I was doing today, and I've set up projects. This is something that I started to do in my own GPT as well, because you will develop so many chats over times, and it can sort of be like the files on your computer. You can lose track of where things are. So these projects really help you keep things in groups, and you can start a chat and move it to a project and vice versa. But so for now, I've set up these projects, and mainly I've got stuff kind of prepped in the marketing and fundraising project. The other great thing about projects is you can have project files. So you can upload up to 20 files. So I've got 17 here. It does warn me that responses may be lower due to the number of, so that just means it might slow the GPT down in doing certain things, but it's worth it for me right now because I really want the GPT to have the background and the context on Yoga Gives Back so that the materials it creates are usable and relevant and have the right information in them. So I would recommend to go ahead and do that if you already have a chat GPT, or if you're just going to get one after this training because you're so excited. Go ahead and, get your files in there, make sure it digests them and brings them into memory so that as you're creating stuff, it has a lot more context and can help you a lot better. Let's see, what else did I want to point out? Real quick, in your settings, if you come here to data controls. So this is where you can, if you have a paid account, I think if you have a free account, this is automatically on, but don't quote me on that because things change so fast. So right, of course I have theirs turned off. So that just means that whatever we do in here is not being shared back to GPT to improve the model. And that's just a safety concern. Just to make sure, again, we don't really know what happens behind the scenes. So whatever privacy controls that you can get a hold of, I would say go ahead and get those in place. All right, so I think that was pretty much what I wanted to show you in terms of kind of how this is structured and everything. So let's go through, let me show you a few prompts that I actually was able to do prior, and just it will do some live too, but again, sometimes the processing takes time. So I think it's worth showing you real quick. For those of you who aren't ready to get a paid plan, that's fine. You can get the free plan and at least start playing with it. There are some limitations, but it's actually pretty robust. And I was able to get some pretty good, I did an exercise in the free plan before I upgraded the account, just so I could get a little bit of the experience because I hadn't used the free in a long time. So basically what I was able to do with the free plan for Yoga Gives Back was let me start at the top here. I think I asked for basically a marketing plan and some sample marketing materials for an upcoming event called Global Gathering for India. So it did a pretty good job of a basic marketing plan. I had given it 3 documents as well. So this is before I uploaded all of their documents, but there are 3 very good documents like website content, a sort of a comprehensive overview that I had built, and samples of blogs so that it could get a sense of our voice and content. So let's see here, it thought after I gave it this prompt, which I'll admit is a pretty messy prompt. And sometimes I am messy in the prompts, meaning that, this is a language model. It's meant to understand us. So you don't have to get super technical with your prompts. You can just speak like you would speak. It is important to give context. People say to give it a role, like tell it, to play the role of a researcher or a marketer. Although sometimes I feel like it picks up on the role when you give it the right context, but it doesn't hurt. And let it know your goal, what you're trying to do, short term and long term. And even if there might be several steps you need to go through. And I used to kind of give ChatGPT all the steps, and then I noticed that it it can get caught up in that. So it is better to step things out if you can. With that being said, you can give it a broad overview of what you're trying to do from the beginning. Um, so that it has, again, that context of what you're trying to achieve in the chat. So it took it 14 seconds. It came back with a basic marketing plan, a content calendar, some social media posts. I think at some point I asked it to go ahead and create some blogs, which it did. This was interesting. I asked it to, so there's a research feature or even the search feature, which is not deep research, but it's just to search the web to find our recent media coverage. And so it brought back these things. And then I asked it to research more potential partners based upon what it knew about us and the coverage we'd already gotten. And it actually did a really good job and came back with a lot of relevant recommendations. So yeah, this was the free version, and basically I created a marketing plan, blogs, a content calendar, and a whole lot of social media posts. And I think we can still improve this, and maybe I will have redo this in the account with you guys right now, so you can kind of see it in real time. But I just wanted to let you know that the free version is powerful, and you can do a lot with it. Um, so at least after this training, if you're not using ChatGPT, I'll hope you'll tool around with the free version and hopefully upgrade to the paid version. So we'll come back to our project here. Let's see, before I jump into a live sample, I think there was one other interesting thing that new thing that it can do that I wanted to show you. Oh, actually, it's down here. So a new thing that it can do is read images really well. So I was really surprised that it could accomplish this. This was an image from our website of the list of annual partners and sponsors for our last gala. And I wanted to be able to write out their names, and I just didn't want to manually go through and do it. So I put it into chat and asked it to pull out the names. And it really did a good job. I actually did this in my own account, and it did it much faster. I think I might have been on a different model. But anyway, it took it 7 minutes, but it literally, parsed out all the names of all those sponsors and, brought them back for me, which is great. So like, for example, now that I have this, like maybe I want to get their website links. Let me see if it can do a good job of that. I'm going to say, can you retrieve the website links for all these companies? Let me just try the search on that one. We see how it does, and then if it doesn't do a good job, we can do the deep research. But essentially, it's just every day they're coming out with more and more things that make your life easier. This may take a minute, so I'm going to jump out of here, and if we come back, hopefully it has an answer for us. So something kind of like an easy way to get started is actually, sorry, I just wanted to point out that some of the models, right now I'm in, you can change models, which I probably shouldn't get into. Usually it'll just put you on 4, but if it's not doing a good job with something, it has other things that are good at reasoning or faster at this or that. And so sometimes I do switch around models. You don't really need to worry about that. It usually does a good job of picking. So here, sometimes it will tell you its thought process, and it's very interesting. I'm trying to collect website links for the various sponsors. And so it kind of tells you the process that it's going through, which I kind of like to watch that, but you don't have to. Um, so now you can see it's searching the web and starting to bring back some of the URLs, but we'll let it do its work. And let's jump into sort of a very simple prompt. So let's say you have, decent web content, your website, but you'd like to improve the copy for SEO and just make it more amenable to being found through search engine optimization. So in this case, I went ahead and again and put the prompt in here so that I didn't have to be cutting and pasting a whole lot when we were doing this. I said, this is a prompt for later, hold this. So the prompt is basically, again, it's not very structured. I just said, improve the copy of this web page, founder's story. Don't remove any substance, just modify it for alignment with SEO best practices. Refer to SEO best practices in this project. Use what you know about YGB to enhance content. Refer to uploaded document. Kyoko YGB overview summary for Kyoko's voice. That was something that I recently added. So I gave it the website copy and I just said, this is a prompt for later, hold it. Let me see if it's going to remember that. I'm going to say, go ahead and execute. Hopefully it will remember. Oh, I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. It knows. Let's see here. If it doesn't, then I can re-put in the prompt, but I think it is going to catch on to basically I put that in there so I didn't have to recopy and paste that for you all while we're doing this. So I may be okay. So it's taking its time, and remember I'm screen sharing. I'm actually running another analysis in another chat. So it's taking its time, and I'm also in this O4 high mini model. So it's taken its time, but here we go. It thought for 31 seconds. It's bringing it back to me in Markdown, which is interesting. I guess because I asked for SEO, so it's giving it to me in what's called Markdown with the H1, specifying H1 headings, which is part of SEO and things like that. So it did give me an output, what we did for SEO alignment. So it basically told me how it changed the web page. It added the H1 to H3 headings. It did some internal links. It did keyword integration. So now I'm going to say good job, because you should give it feedback when it does a good job. You can also do a thumbs up here. Can you give this to me in text as well? Let's see if they get what I'm trying to say. Basically, thanks for that markdown file. That would be great for my webmaster, but maybe I just want to see it, like how it would look on the front end. And there you go. It put that out for me, no problem. All right, so let's jump into kind of doing redoing the marketing plan situation or that I had done in the free ChatGPT. And again, I have a starting point for this. Before we had developed some blogs. Let me see if hopefully I can find that. So I'm going. Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place. Let me jump back to our sponsor list extraction and see how it did with the URLs. Not bad. It found some. The other time I did it, it found more. I might have used deep research, but not bad, right? So it basically broke out of an image all of our sponsors and found about half of their URLs for me. So that would certainly save me a lot of time. So now let's jump into generating like long form content from your source materials. So as I mentioned, you can, with each prompt, you can upload your source materials, and that works just fine. You can also sort of upload them to projects in advance, like I did. So what I was trying to do there was basically create a content library for ChatGPT to pull from, but you don't have to do it that way. You can do it as you go. So I'm in here. I've got some prompts already kind of ready for us. I wanted to, sorry, there is one other. Okay, there was a blog I was going to grab here. Um, okay, well, no problem. We will. I had a blog that I was going to have it improve, but actually, yeah, I think I can grab it from this from the free plan. So it had created this blog in the free plan, which is okay, but it looks more like a social media post than a blog, honestly. This was aimed at the Yoga Gives Back has global ambassadors that help fundraise for them. So this is aimed at the ambassador community to encourage them to hold events and help us with our June fundraising event. So I'm going to copy this blog here, which is honestly kind of short and lame. And we'll come back to our long form prompt examples. So I'm just going to say, since I already have a draft of the blog, I could have asked it to, oops, for some reason I'm in tasks, and that's not good. We'll go to 4.5, which is the newest model. So I'm going to say, can we improve this blog you created for global gathering? Please reference the blog. I'm going to spell wrong, but again, it's really good at knowing when you spell things wrong. Please reference the blog best practices, which is something that, again, I fed it earlier. And you could just upload your blog best practices if you have them, or you can include them as part of the prompt. I could say here, make it 1,500 words and make sure it has H1 and H2 and make sure it's in sections. But that's what my blog best practices document does. So just to kind of simplify my prompts, I have already given it that information. So now I need to paste the blog that I want it to improve. And if there was anything else, like maybe I wanted it to take a different spin on it, I would, mention that here. But at this point, I'm just saying improve it with the blog best practices. And let's see how it does. So it is searching my project files because I asked it to reference the blog best practices, which is nice, or you could have just re-uploaded them here. So he's right, or they were right. The having to search the project files sometimes can take it a bit of time. But I don't mind when it takes its time because one of the I would say sometimes frustrating things about ChatGPT is it can respond too quickly. So sometimes I'll even say, hold your output until you make sure you have all of my information. So I don't mind when it takes a little bit of time. It's still pretty fast compared to if I was trying to write it. So it's still working on it here. There we go. So this is opening, for those of you kind of new to ChatGPT, this is now opening in what's called Canvas. So as you can see, it almost looks like a window inside of our regular chat. There's pros and cons to Canvas. I'm trying to get used to it. The nice thing is you can it allows you to do live live edits like on the side here rather than having to reproduce everything together. So it's coming up with the blog right now. Again, it's being kind of technical, and that's probably my fault because I gave it a lot of technical things to look at in terms of SEO. So it's bringing back things like H2 and what have you. So that's not a bad thing, but you can also have it write it just in, without that technical stuff in there too. So you have something to put on your website. So it's doing its thing. It's making the blog much more comprehensive, putting it in sections. See if it gets, I have also given it like common links that it can add to its content when it creates it. So we'll see if it picks up on that and does, yep, there we go. It got the register your event. I think it knows the correct URL. So it did a pretty good job so far. Honestly, this is a lot slower processing than what I'm used to. But again, that could be due to a couple things. Could be due to the fact that we're in this project with all of those documents. So normally it will actually output a lot faster than this, but this we can live with this. So I will let it finish processing that, and I can kind of start my next prompt. So we have a blog now, and you might want to turn this into a press release, or make it a little bit different for a LinkedIn article. And honestly, that's kind of all you have to say if that's what you want. Maybe you notice something in here that you want to change, right? Before you start modifying it to different platforms. And I would suggest that, like, it does a great job of these drafts, but it is our responsibility to actually really read what it's putting out and make sure it's right? So that's the downside. You can ask it to create 10 blogs for you, but you're going to have to read those blogs and give feedback. So sometimes you want to keep it moderate, but let's assume that this is pretty on point and it got everything right. It even put our Instagram, Facebook links in here and stuff because I had told it what those were when I was prepping it. So did a pretty good job with the blog. So let's just say we don't have any iterations at this point, just for time's sake. Or I could, tell it to make a small change to this or that. So he says, let me know if you like any adjustments or further refinements. So at this point, if I was doing this for real, I might have it go ahead and create a press release. Check on the time here. And some other long form content. And it would do a great job at that. Essentially, it's just adapting this to, press release standards, which it actually knows those pretty well. But again, you can guide it by saying, make sure to include a quote and use standard press release language and things like that. So we will say, we are happy with the blog. It's starting to give you these recommended things. So sometimes if you're not sure, you could actually take them up on some of their suggestions here. But let's just say we like the blog. We already adapted it to other long form content, like a LinkedIn article, things like that. And now we're ready to take it and develop some social posts and things like that. So one other thing to remember is sometimes it's good to, like, if you like this blog at this point, I would recommend you go ahead and copy it like into your Word or your wherever you save your files, because it can get hard to find things over time. So I'm just going to copy this and bring it in to a new chat so we can create some social media for that. So we like our blog, and we could actually still do it right in that same chat. But because chats start to perform slower when they're long, and I might want to keep my blog content separate from my social, I'm going to jump into this new chat, which again, I already have the chat created, but you could also just create a new chat if you don't. So all I did in here was preload some prompts that I might want to use. And these are kind of broken out, giving best practices for Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. But what I have done prior is I actually, again, gave it a document called Social Media Best Practices that has all this spelled out in it. So it's perfectly fine to do this in your prompts like I did here, if you don't want to, upload your social media best practices. But I find it helpful so I don't have to repeat myself in these prompts so much. So that's what examples of those were. But I'm not actually going to use any of those right now. I am going to say, like, here's a blog we wrote. And let's say I'm kind of, I want to, do this quickly. I want to write, let's say, 3 social media posts per platform, spinning off this blog. I'm going to say also reference the other information about global gathering. I talked about it to him in a few other chats already. And use the social media best practices in this project. So normally I might be a little bit more specific and tell it which kind of spin to take and do this for LinkedIn and focus. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'm going to say for LinkedIn, it may or may not have done this on its own. Target sponsors and partners, just so that, because that's kind of the audience that we would have on LinkedIn. So, okay, so I gave it the blog, I gave it the prompt and told it what things to reference. And so, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, give me one sample for each platform before creating all three. That's because I may not like what it does, and I really want to do three, but I want to get a sample first, because if I don't like the first one, I don't want to waste its time doing the other one. So hopefully it will just take a minute or two to return to me one social post per each of those channels. Okay. Did I forget to share the blog? I sure did. So he said, absolutely, but you need to share the blog. Okay, so there we go. Forgot to paste the blog. So again, a big part of this is iterating and back and forth. And maybe your first prompt is not perfect. You'll find that out pretty quick, because you'll either not get back what you're looking for, or it may come back and ask you a question like that, like, hey, well, sure, I can do that, but I need the blog. So it's really a back and forth, and that's really kind of what makes it fun. So don't be afraid to just, again, jump in, and even if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have prompts or anything, you can say, I'm new to ChatGPT and I work at this nonprofit, and tell me how you can be of assistance to me. And you might be amazed at what it comes back with just a simple inquiry like that. But if you have ideas and instruction, also don't be afraid to get in there and achieve your goals with what you have in mind. So it went ahead and returned a sample. Usually it does a bunch of emojis. I think I probably told it in my document to dial back the emojis because it was doing so many. But it can add all emojis in here and such. These are okay. It tends to write short social posts, which are recommended, but sometimes you need things to be longer depending upon what we tell a lot of success stories about our graduate students, or students that in India that go to college and graduate. And, sometimes it takes more than a few sentences to tell those stories. But so here is its social media output. I don't know. It's okay. I'm going to say, I'm going to pretend for time's sake again that I like these and say, good job, even though that's not 100% true. Just, for now, well, it's good enough. Good job. Can you create the others? Okay, so it'll work on those. And while it does that, I should probably jump back to the presentation so that we can finish up with the slides. But let me just come back to, while it's finishing that, come back to our thing and just kind of show you. So again, we've been doing things with marketing. We didn't get the chance to actually go through all the way and create a content plan. I could try to have it do that while we're finishing up with the rest of the slides. So there we go. It gave me my other posts. Yes, I must have told it not to use emojis, because normally it's like goes crazy with the emojis. So at this point you can say, put in emojis, or this one is not talking to the right audience, or that doesn't sound like my voice. And it'll keep reproducing things until you're happy. At some point you want to, like I said, copy this out of here and bring it into your own saved files, and probably do a final edit, to make sure it's in your voice and is all correct. So while we're finishing up the slides, I'm going to say, can you create marketing plan for global gathering and a content calendar based on the files in this project. This is very general, and I should do a better job with the prompt. But for time's sake, I'm just going to say that to see kind of what it achieves to give you a sense of that. So I do need to jump back to the presentation right now, but maybe we have about 10 minutes left, so we'll come back and see how it does with the marketing plan after it has time. Actually, oh, look at that, 13 seconds. It came back with it. It actually doesn't look too different from the other one. It might have cheated and used the one that I already gave it that it did in the other GPT. But as you can see, this is pretty nice, right? Like even if there's a lot of things you need to change, this is a great starting point. And you can iterate inside here. You can bring it outside of ChatGPT and make edits. If you do that, I recommend you come back and give it your final draft. Because again, if you want this to learn over time what your preferences are, what you expect in terms of the output, and if you don't give it that feedback, it's going to take a lot longer to get to where it can really be your sidekick. All right, so back to our slides, and that was just a very quick rundown of a few of these marketing and fundraising prompts and examples that you can do. You can also use it in grant research, writing, and development. I think one of the most powerful things, I mean, you can do grant research, but honestly, some of the grant research tools and just using your own research might be better in that case. But in terms of filling out the RFPs and writing your case statements, again, if it has a lot of great background information on you, you could even upload past grants that you were awarded, and then you upload the grant application that you need to fill out. Bam, it takes your information and structures it into the grant application. And again, you're going to need to help it develop budgets and things like that that are very specific that it's not going to know. But in terms of initially just filling the application out in the way that they want, hugely helpful. Also, I think it's very helpful with building logic models and identifying outcomes. So as many of you know, with grants, they want to see outcomes and they want to see measurements. So you may or may not have those, and you can use ChatGPT to really, flesh those out and make sure that they're appropriate and what the grantor wants to see. I think HR and staff development is a great use case as well. So a lot of times people think about AI is going to replace staff or replace humans. And I don't see it that way at all. It's a tool for human empowerment. It doesn't work without us, first of all. So it's really a back and forth. And it's important to let staff know when you're starting to use AI that it's not to replace them, it's to empower them. So, you can have it create a staff development plan for your team or for yourself. Again, it's very similar process. Give as much inputs as you can, job descriptions, performance reviews, um, their aspirations, definitely remove their identifying information as we talked about, and then say, build a development plan based on this person's strengths, goals, and potential roles. And our organizational needs if you've given that information to the GPT. And it actually does a really great job with this kind of stuff. You can actually just have great conversations with it about your development and where you want to go in your career, and it's a really fun use case for it. So you can also use it for strategic planning. We don't have time to get into that today, but maybe in future webinars we can look at that if you are interested in that angle. There are a lot of AI implementation and adoption frameworks, and so if you really want to do this seriously, or you're a large organization that needs to do it in a very official way, then there are those resources and frameworks out there for you. But please don't let this stop you from exploring and experimenting and, at least trying to figure out, where you would use AI, and that can really help you to inform your policies once you get there. It's going to look different in a small versus a large nonprofit. If you're a small team, honestly, I say just get together and get a ChatGPT account and start uploading your information, kind of like I showed you, like we did for Yoga Gives Back. And then develop practical uses and policies over time from that. If you're a larger nonprofit, you probably have some other things and policies and oversight committees that you need to go through, and that's that's fine as well. But there are resources out there to support you, whether you're large or small, to make sure that you get this going in the right way. And I think I already touched on this. Just make AI implementation about your people, about empowering them, and see how it improves the efficiency and the effectiveness of their work, and hopefully gives them something to strive for in terms of their self-development, and gives them more time to participate in your mission-driven work and really making a difference in the community. So I apologize. I should have ended a little sooner for questions. We have 4 minutes. I will say that whatever questions we do not answer today, I will get back to you via email about your question, because we have your information from the sign-up list. So I would really appreciate if you could take out your phones at this point, and then I will see what questions I might be able to get to in the next few minutes. Do you have any advice as to the length and scope of prompts, token limits? My understanding is that GPTs have a limit to their understanding after a certain number of tokens. Yes, that's a great question. The free version, you're going to be a lot more limited with tokens, and there's only you can only generate 3 images a day in the free version. The paid version is pretty robust. I will hit my limits sometimes because I'm a crazy iterator, and I love to go back and forth with the GPT because it helps me learn, about it and its capabilities. Sometimes you don't know that you hit your limits until you do, and then they tell you. But it is publicly available information so that you could look that up. But definitely the paid accounts, you're going to get a lot more tokens, and you're typically not going to run out of things unless you're using one of their beta models or something new where they limit what you're doing. Do you have any other data protection recommendations aside from the one toggle you showed us so it doesn't share back? As far as I know, in ChatGPT, that's where you control that. Again, I'm not all knowing, and ChatGPT changes a lot. But that is where you say, the other thing you can do is just don't give it data that you don't want shared. So I think the biggest one would be donor information, right? Or staff information. Definitely, we didn't do that today, but you can upload your a spreadsheet of your donor data, your donors, what they donated, when they donated, and have it analyze that for trends. But of course, you need to remove their name, their email, their phone, and put in aliases. And then, the way you really control that is by what you put into it, other than toggling off that you don't want to share your information there. When using the free version, is it wise to create an account and sign in and stay logged out? I'm not sure about that. Usually it will when you're, is it wise to create an account and sign in? Stay logged out. Okay, I think I'm following you. I would sign in. So the powerful thing about the GPT is that it's learning about you over time. They actually just made a big change to memory, which is causing a lot of chaos in the user world. But basically, they've made it so that it remembers better across your chats. You can actually just talk to it about what it remembers. So you can say, to your question, if you're not logged in, it's not going to develop. It's not going to develop intelligence about you, and it won't get better over time. So definitely log in so that it gets to know you. Can we please get the recording? Yes. Maria, the fabulous marketing director for SUCUP, will be sending that out. I think just a few hours after the training, you'll get the recording and the slides. So I think that's all the time we have for questions. Again, I thank you very much. I'm sorry, I think there was one more slide I'm supposed to be sharing here. It's our end slide. Basically, SUCUP Strategic Solutions has many different areas that we can support you in. So hopefully this gave you enough information to go out there and start experimenting with AI and seeing where you can apply it. If you do want support in this area or any other area like grants, strategic planning, fundraising, I'm just one of many consultants that work with SUCUP, and they have some very talented people that are able to help you in all of those areas. If you just go to our website, sucupstrategicsolutions.com, you can contact us through there. So thank you all very much for coming, and I look forward to hearing about your experience in the survey. If you have a few minutes to do that for us, and you'll be getting the replay and the slides shortly, and I'm hope to see you in our future webinars.